Howdy folks, Tex here. Welcome to Southern Belle Bigfoot. Let me introduce y'all to a great friend of mine, Celena.
Hey y'all, I'm Celena. I started this channel because I had my own encounter, and I know what it's like to be ridiculed and unable to share my experiences. I want to give everyone a safe haven to share their encounters with these magnificent beings. I love to hear yours as well. Please email them to me at cwlenagarrett@gmail.com. And if you'd like to support me in my journey to the truth, my Cash App is $Celena Bigfoot, and I look forward to hearing from you. Hey everybody, how's it going? I'm so glad you joined me on Southern Belle Bigfoot. I have extraordinary guests. You know, they get better and better and better. Anyways, before we start the show tonight, to introduce two awesome folks. And by the way, I went and watched them myself, and I tell you, these guys are awesome. I just think they're just cool to watch. But anyways, I want to tell you, Randy, thank you, backstage. He's awesome. Tex hooked me up with Randy so he can help me with my show. Texas Front Porch. I'm supporting and strutting this shirt because you're always supportive. But there is a person that last week I met accidentally. And have you ever heard the old saying, you never meet anyone accidentally? Well, I did not meet this man accidentally. I just know that with all my heart. I am broke down with a flat tire at I think it's called a Samco or something in a certain part of Alabama. And he just shows up with his daughter. And I'm standing in line and I'm saying, I'll pay anybody that can help me to put air in my tire. My tires went flat. And I'm offering to pay any and everybody to help me put air in my tire so I don't blow my tire up and or something, put too much in it. And this man is standing back there with what looks like a teenage girl. And I thought it might be his daughter. And I just turned around and I said, sir, I said, can I pay you to put air in my tire? And I said, I got to get back to Gadsden. And he said, I got you, girl. And that's how he put it. I got you, girl. And about that time, his daughter, I'm assuming, that was with him, she got to see what a good man is like. Do you know what I'm saying? It wasn't just that he helped a stranger. He showed his daughter what a real good man is like, to help a woman that's stranded. And so we got out to the car and he introduced himself and his daughter and told her who I was. And I just want to shout out to David Soriano for getting me back to Gadsden, Alabama, to my babies. You know how important my puppies are to me. And I was freaking out because I was like, I'm not going to make it back to Gadsden to my babies. So David Soriano, he is from Helena, Alabama, and y'all, it is no accident that this man showed up in Alexandria, Alabama, so far away from where he lives, and he's the only man in that whole line that told me they didn't have time to stop and help me. The other man was like, I don't have time. I got to hurry. But this one, he stopped and helped me. David Soriano, I really appreciate you, man, and I appreciate the kindness you've shown. Okay, let's bring up Sheila and Scott Granger. I'm so excited to have them here. Thank y'all so much for coming.
Yes, it's our pleasure.
And so, anyways, I just had to tell all about this fella. I just don't believe in accidental meetings. Do y'all?
No, ma'am.
No. Everybody comes in contact with us for a reason. We don't understand why at the time. But I was thinking, out of all these people that keep saying, I don't have time. I'm in a hurry. This man was in a hurry and still stopped to help me. And I said, I'm going to give him a shout out. So y'all tell me, if you don't mind, and tell all the listeners, and thank everyone for being here. I'll try to go up. You know how it won't let me go all the way up sometimes. But I'm going to start by saying, Freaky Geek, so good to see you, Roger Blair, Keith from 1675, Sparky's Paranormal and Outdoors, Sandra Piper, Brett Chastain. I don't know who I was watching. It won't let me go further. But I love you guys for watching. Thank you for your support. Sheila and Scott, y'all go into telling me about your career and how you know these things are real.
Okay.
All right.
You want to go first?
Sure. I'm Scott Granger. I'm a retired federal law enforcement officer and also a naval veteran.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're very welcome. And I got into the Bigfoot phenomena. I was kind of, pulled into it a little bit, and by my lovely wife. And my story actually happens a little bit after hers, so I'll let her tell hers first.
My name is Sheila. I was a police officer for a little over 20 years, retired from that. Decided I wanted to go back to school to be a nurse. So I've been a hospice nurse for the past, since 2019. I can't keep up with it anymore. Well, yeah, there you go.
Thank you for your service also, Sheila, in both fields.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. So, I've always been interested in Bigfoot, but, the legend of Boggy Creek, now my bird's going to start hollering at me. Everybody wants to talk. So the legend of Boggy Creek, Scott had never seen it. And I got him to watch it one night and we were all into it. I couldn't believe he'd never seen it. Then we ended up moving here to North Georgia. And that's when things got real. I'd seen an advertisement in the paper for a Bigfoot expedition. I begged and begged and
Sheila,
begged.
you see this right here? That means hold up just a second. I just caught something you just said. Tell the listeners, please. There's a reason I'm having you repeat that.
Okay.
North Georgia, you said?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you mind telling them around what area? Like, you don't have to give the exact address, just what area.
We're in LJ.
Okay.
Well,
There's a reason. There's a reason I wanted you to say that. Y'all know my nephew. I have two nephews, and one's in here right now. The other one is a big hunter, and he lives in LJ, Georgia. And he said, Aunt Lena, I've been hunting 35 years, and I've never seen nothing. So,
I love him.
This.
I can concur with what he's saying because I was that guy. I mean, I really was. I hunted in river bottoms and swamps of South Georgia and North Florida all my life. And somebody would say some stuff about the Bigfoot phenomenon and everything, and I kind of laugh about it. I'd say, you know what?
That's what I did.
If anything like that existed in these swamps and rivers, I would have seen it by now.
Which is why he didn't want to go on that Bigfoot expedition, but I kept on and on and on.
Yeah, and
he finally consented, and that's really what got the ball rolling there. Yeah, because the first night, we actually got there the night before it started, and we went out with a couple of people, and if I had not have been there myself and somebody told me the story, I would have thought. And if somebody had asked me back when I was a cop if I'd be doing this, I'd ask them, "Are you crazy?" No,
yeah, that's what I said.
Chasing a unicorn.
Yeah, but and I tell all the guys, people that go out on our expeditions and things with us, we love a skeptic, especially being out because I was myself. But a lot of people that'll tell you, they've hunted and fished all their lives and everything. Most of them probably have, but the ones that truly have, they have to admit that they've heard things, and they've seen things in them woods that they just can't explain. And if they ever really sit back and think about it, that'll recall to them because they've seen it if they've been out there like they say they have.
Well, he lives in LJ, so I'm loving this.
Oh.
Cool. Maybe we'll run into him at Walmart.
Yep.
That's awesome. Yeah. So we done that expedition. We had a few things happen that I, like I said, I couldn't get over. I couldn't believe what I'd heard. That night we were in our tent and we had something on 2 feet come walking down. You could tell it was 2 feet, and it stood over the tent and it went, that loud like grunt thing. And I'm telling you right now, I tell everybody, if that thing had touched that tent, I would have ran with the tent and everything. Because I'd never heard anything like that. So I'm like, okay, well, there's something out there I can't explain, but I have to see it with my own eyes to be 110% sure and say, yeah, there is such a thing as Bigfoot. And then I got that opportunity, and that was in September of 2019. And we were actually scouting, Scott and I and a friend of ours. My bird is just getting louder and louder. So we were out scouting for our next camping trip, and Scott and our friend had stayed down the ridge, and I went on up the ridge. I thought they were coming right behind me. So I made it to the top of the ridge. This is 2:00 during the day. I mean, the weather was great, but I'll be honest with you, I usually carry in the woods, and I carry mainly for hogs because I'm terrified of them jokers. I did not have a gun. I did not have my cell phone was in the Jeep because I wasn't expecting anything to happen. You know, it was just a routine day. And I get up there and I'm looking down where our cars are parked way down the ridge and the dirt roads and everything. And I hear something on my right over here. And I take one step back and I look about 25 yards away. And something's behind a tree. It's got both his hands around a tree. And it's just a little bit of movement, which makes you like, okay, there's something there and I see movement. And the first thing I said was Scott, because I thought they were coming on up the ridge and he was still down the ridge. And I'm looking at this thing. He's looking at me. We have eye contact, you know, and he's moving a little bit more, like, I don't want to say bouncing. It's just a little bit of movement. And by that time I said, Scott. And so he realized something was wrong. I mean, but when you see something like that, you don't have any recollection because I've never seen anything like that. So I knew it wasn't a bear. I know what a bear looks like.
Sheila, y'all have heard my story, hadn't you?
No, ma'am.
I was delivering court documents and I went into some kind of shock. I was on a county road in Piedmont. Y'all need to go back and watch my interview. I was scared to death. I thought I'm seeing something straight out of Hollywood. Like, there's no way that could be a human, even in a suit. This thing was so huge. So I understand what you mean.
You can't understand what it is because you've never seen anything like that, but you see it with your own eyes. It was huge. I didn't really see a neck. The one thing that got me, the biggest thing, is this shoulder was on that side of the tree and this shoulder was on the other side of the tree. And his face looked like clay, old leather clay. It didn't have any facial hair on his face. But when I screamed Scott the second time, this thing dropped like a puff of smoke and tore out on all fours.
We've heard of that all four thing. They're pretty fast, aren't they?
He moved. I mean, it was like, and you know, I'm pretty sure I would have never seen it because I wasn't looking that way. They make a clicking sound with their tongue.
Yes.
And I'm pretty sure that's what he done, made that sound because I turned and looked straight at it. It was like my 4 o'clock. So he meant for me to see him. And I guess because Scott and our friend wasn't there.
Yeah. Well, she hollered for me the second time. There was a good bit of intensity in her voice. So we come on up that ridge hastily. And we get up to the top of the ridge there. Everyone knows what a tickle me Elmo is.
Yes.
I had a life-size one. She was rattling from her shoulders to her ankles. I mean, just.
Oh, my God. Now, this is a trained, the people just tuning in, this is a trained officer. We're talking about a woman who was an officer for 20 years. And then Scott is federal police, or was federal police. And I'm just telling y'all, our bodies, when humans come up on you, react the normal way. We do that, protective stance. We know what we need to do. We have that, where we observe everything and we're kidding. And this is a woman and a man who has police experience. So they know what the difference is between a human and a big creature. So if you're just tuning in, these are law enforcement officers that had a lot of years on the job. So it's a really good show. Stick around. Go ahead, Sheila.
It took me, I was so shaken up, but it's like I constantly was trying to convince my eyes that they didn't see what they saw, if that makes any sense.
I did the same thing.
I was like, for 3 days, I kept looking at Scott and I said, that had to be a bear. It had to be a bear. But I know it wasn't a bear. Uh-huh. And at that point, you've come to this point in your life where everything your grandmother ever told you, your mom ever told you, when they say boogers ain't real, that's a lie. It was just all throughout the window. So what else is?
I've got chills over here because, listen, that's what I said. We have dealt with the worst of the worst, if you're anything like me in my career, people that's pushed you to your furthest limit, that will try you. Law enforcement is not an easy job. And And then, of course, like I said, I just went to serve court documents, and I had had a knee replacement, and I was in a locked piece of metal. I was in a car, and I was shaking. I lost total track. I couldn't even put my car in reverse.
Mhm.
So I understand what you mean. These things are not supposed to be real. It's something supposed to be just a story.
Right.
Our minds go to different places. I cried for days. I cried like a little titty baby for days. I didn't understand what I seen, and I
Right.
didn't want to be made fun of.
Right.
That was important to me, not to be made fun of. But I finally said, never mind, just never mind. Because my nieces and nephews are out there at camps and camping and hiking, and I need to let my sisters know that they don't need to let them go by themselves. They don't need to leave them unattended.
That's right. That's right. It's scary. All these people that get on the trail and hike by themselves. I want to say, don't, take somebody with you. But
But when she would always ask me, after she says, that had to be something else and everything.
Mm-hmm.
I said, do you think I could have saw a bear? I said, well, honey, you've seen enough of them. You know what a bear looks like.
Mm-hmm.
This thing standing up on his back, on his feet. A bear doesn't have shoulders. His shoulders are on a 45-degree angle
yeah,
slant.
he was huge.
They're not squared off.
That's right.
And then, so they come running up there. And then Scott, they get there, and I'm shaking, and I said, there was a Bigfoot right there. And I tore off towards the tree. Scott stood there, tore off towards the tree where he was. If I had called that on the radio, like a description, I would have said he was about 6.5 foot tall. But when I get over there, he was on a decline. So he had to be 7.5 foot tall. I mean, he was huge.
Yeah. Mm.
And when they got over there, they found a nice surprise.
Yeah. Yeah, I never would have thought that. You see bear scat, you see deer scat, whatever, and there was, I'm telling you, and I've got an awesome picture of it. It was huge, huge. And if it had been cold that day, it would have been smoking.
Oh my goodness.
So I don't know what happened.
Maybe you scared the mess out of me.
That should be on the other end.
After they got down there, and our friend now, he's 6'3", and when they went down that decline, Sheila had pointed out where his top of his head was to me on the tree, on a marker area right there.
Yeah.
And he had to reach up as high as he could reach, but now he's on a decline.
Yeah.
And he couldn't quite get his hand to where that mark was.
Wow.
So he's pretty good sized boy.
Like I say, I wasn't expecting anything like that during the day. I guess because we had just started, so I thought it was only at night. So yeah, no.
When I went over there to where they were at finally, and they were showing me this scat and everything that's laying on the ground, and we're studying on that a little bit, and then we started tracking this thing where it went down the ridge. He got down to a little ravine at the bottom of that ridge, and now that ravine's probably about 15 yards across it, about the same deep. He didn't go through the ravine; he jumped it.
Yeah,
we could see where it landed on the other side, and our friend, he's like an old mountain goat. He just right on down through there and up the other side and trailed it for a little bit longer. And I'm short-legged, and he's old long-legged thing. He makes pretty good tracks.
I think when some of that stuff happens, same way with being a cop, either the first bad thing you see is either going to make you or break you.
That's right.
You either never go back in the woods, or you're going to go wide open trying to find answers that you're just going to have.
I went back the next day to make sure. I couldn't comprehend what I had seen. So to make sure I wasn't going out of my gourd, I thought, what if that was somebody just playing a joke? What if it was somebody on stilts? What if they put on a fursuit and stuffed themselves with something? You wouldn't believe the things that went through my mind. So the next day I went back. I just had to go back and see if I really did see that, or if it was still there, like that thing that they maybe played a joke. There's no way, especially when the smaller one stepped out beside it. So y'all need to go back and watch mine, but tell me some more about yours.
Well, from that, like I say, that day on, it was kind of pretty much gung-ho into it feet first. And then, a couple of weeks later, then Scott had his sighting right there in the same spot. I think these things are familiar. They recognize you. Does that make any sense?
I think they show themselves to certain people. Do you agree?
I do agree.
Maybe the ones that are not so gung ho to kill them or something. I don't know.
I think they figure out, what you mean, or what your intentions are.
Yeah, 2 weeks after she had her sighted, we were us, that same friend, and another one of our friends had came over, and we were down in that camp area then. And our other friend that come, he hollered to me, and I stand beside my truck, messing around in my truck. He hollered to me, and he said, "Hey, there's something moving up on that ridge." So I stopped what I was doing. I kept scanning that ridge, and I finally saw it. And like Sheila said, all the foliage all the leaves and everything had fell off the trees at that time. And all your leaves on the ground were all brown. And there's a little bit of brush up there too, but his face is how I got to see him. That with not having any hair on it and a grayish color. And
Mine was great. The small one was great.
When the moment I saw his face, I was able to pick him out real good because this thing blended in better than a man in a ghillie suit.
Mm-hmm.
He was that cinnamon color.
There's no telling how many, honestly, that are just sitting watching people and they have no idea. They blend in so well with their surroundings. Their fastness and their strength is what blows me away. They're so huge and fast, and then what they do to animals. I mean, to know that things like this can break cows' tails and horses' necks and just peel a goat's head off, like Daryl Denton said to me about that, finding a goat outside his front door. They got mad and threw the goat at the front door without a head.
Oh my gosh!
Turned it off. They tore this joker's head off and threw it at his front door. And I respect Daryl Denton, and I respect that, him being mayor for so many years, and a lot of people depended on him, and it meant a lot to me that he took time to come on my show. But man, when he told that story, I got the chills all over my body.
That's enough to give them to you.
Oh yeah,
God, Pete.
But when our buddy told me that, and I started watching, and I picked him off, and I told him, I said, "I see him." He said, "Where's he at?" And he was actually standing up there, and he was looking back at our friend. He wasn't paying me no attention, no mind at all. And I tried to explain to him where he was at, and where he was at, he couldn't see him because it had a few trees between them.
Yeah.
And so he eased on over towards my truck where I was standing at, and I'm, just staying real still, trying to direct his vision up to where this thing's at. That went on for just a minute. Not even a minute, but it went on for just a little bit. And he finally looks at me. He says, I can't, I'm not seeing him. And dummy me, I reached up and I pointed over his shoulder and pointed right at him. As soon as I pointed at him, he dropped down and he took off. I mean, in a flash. This thing covered 40 yards in about 3 good lunges. An Olympic athlete or a deer is not near that fast.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
The moment he moved, though, our friend says, "Oh, there he is." I said, "Man, I've been sitting here watching this thing for over a minute and a half." And I've recounted this story before, and I've had people ask me, "Wow, you got to watch him that long. Why didn't you get a picture of him?" I'm here to tell you, I had a really good phone in my pocket that had a really good camera on it, and that was the last thing on my mind.
Right.
I mean,
if I wouldn't have had mine on my windshields, my phone thing, because we have to take pictures of every house we serve, like mailboxes, to prove we was at the right place, serving the right people. You know how judges and lawyers are. They want everything dotted, their T's crossed and their I's dotted. Well, if my phone wouldn't have been on that windshield on the holder, I wouldn't have thought to grab my phone at all. I'm telling you, your head goes. Psh.
Exactly, and that phone never crossed my mind.
No, I would never. Even if I'd had mine, that.
Not at that point.
No.
Okay, at that point. So does that mean you eventually caught one on video or TV on the camera?
We've got quite a few good pictures.
Really good pictures.
Audio. I'm telling you, since we've started this, our whole lives has turned into this. I mean, like I say, we moved up here to North Georgia. We had leased a cabin for a while out by the river. I mean, in the boondocks, wasn't nobody around. And we started having stuff happen there. I didn't even know what a whoop was. I had no clue. This was before I ever went on the expedition, right?
You mean the whoop?
We were still in South Georgia trying to sell our house there. And like I say, we'd lease this little cabin here. And I'd get up and go to work. Or I'd be out there on the phone talking to him. And I'd say, "What kind of bird makes a whooping noise?"
At
I
night.
had no clue.
At night.
And after I realized that, it scared the bejeebers out of me because they were all around. And I was out there by myself. And they were just whooping. I had no idea. I'd just be sitting on the porch. Didn't know what was out
They
there.
were just watching you, weren't they?
I tell you what, they will.
Yeah. They just sit and observe us. And of course, we would do the same thing. You know, we would if we could get them to be still enough to do it.
Oh,
But
yeah.
they know when he's not home. When he's not, well, that was that cabin. We bought bought our cabin, and we're in between. And I'm sure your nephew will know, between Stover Mountain, Rich Mountain, Stover. Yeah, yeah. I mean, we're like in a basin, and this was basically like a vacation home. Nobody was really staying here. But when we bought it, we had stuff happen like, I mean, our gas tank would get slapped. You know, that's a distinct sound, right?
Oh, yeah, it is. It is.
I mean, our screen doors would get open and just let go. Wham! You could hear the heavy running. Boom, 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 boom. They messed with our motion
Yeah,
light.
I was supposed to say they was picking on you a little bit, letting you know they're there.
It was crazy.
That they'd slap side of the house, and there's something about our meter box. I never could figure that one out in the beginning, and they loved to slap that meter box. And I finally had a guy ask me, he says, "Do y'all have the new meters where they can read them from the electric company? They don't have to come out." And I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, it's putting off a signal, And he said, "I think that's what irritates them about that meter box," and that made good sense.
Yeah, and they say there's some ties between, the power lines and them staying near power lines also. I said, listen, I have been 17 days today, moved to that lake house. And I said, it's crazy because both weekends that I've lived there, I've had company from out of state. And so they're going, Celena, we sit out under the carport by the lake. They said, don't tell me you didn't hear that. I said, yes, I heard that, but what do you want me to do? Well, I mean, what am I going to do? Because they hide so well. When I go to try to take pictures of things I see, I just barely caught one. I wished it would have been a little better picture, but you can see it clearly. Head, shoulders, everything at the new place. But tell me, I've got family starting from Cartersville, Georgia, all the way through Rome, LJ. So, y'all, this is a very wooded, mountainous area where where they're living, and it's beautiful up there. And I remember an apple festival or something going on last time I visited. So, but yeah, it's gorgeous. But he told me, and what's so funny, he lives in a house up there right in the middle of all those mountains and woods, and he's the one that's saying it's so funny that this all happened near y'all, and he lives in LJ, and he's the one that just does not believe it. He said, ain't no such thing. I've been hunting years and years and years. So I'm so tickled about this interview, y'all.
Well, I mean, we welcome skeptics.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
we've had several skeptics go out with us. I mean, and left having a different attitude.
They've left believers, and a few have left knowers.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of a difference in believing and knowing. Once you lay your eyes on him, you become a knower, and all that doubt gets removed.
Yeah,
that's
things
right.
change.
And I tell people all the time, because we got the Bigfoot Museum up here.
You do? I didn't even know that.
In Cherry Log?
Over in Cherry Log.
Huh.
Mr. David Becerra and his wife have one of the best museums, and we've been to a few different Bigfoot museums. They've probably got the best one. They've got the biggest and the best one.
Okay, I guess I'll be going to LJ pretty soon.
Yeah, you'll enjoy it.
It's worth the trip.
Okay, good.
But when you finish your tour, or you're getting toward the end of your tour in that museum, there's a life-size replica Sasquatch in there. They've got him standing in some fir trees, and they've moved the fir trees out of the way so you can see him.
Yeah. And
I tell people all the time, about these things hiding. Us as people, we're predators. Our eyes are forward facing on our head. We are natural predators. And after I say this, people listening and everything else, and maybe yourself too.
Yeah.
Now, today or tomorrow, you're going to study on what I'm fixing to say.
Yeah.
But as we walk along, we don't, unless we're squirrel hunting or bird watching or something like that, we don't typically look up.
Right.
We look from our eye level down.
Right.
That's just the way we're trained to do. And when we have people go off with us and they tell us that they're going to the museum, I always point this out to them. So when you go by that thing, get a good look at him and think about it. If you were walking in the woods and you're just typically walking, looking from your eye level down, unless you looked over his way, looked down and seen his feet, or happened to look up and seen his face, he'd blend right in. You'd walk right by him.
Well, they've had years of practice.
Exactly.
Yes. And so smart. And that's what I try to tell people. I don't know a lot about this creature. I know what I've seen, but that's it. Like, I don't know. And so I'm learning from different people that's coming on. And I learn a lot of stuff from y'all coming on, telling me things. And, but I just am fascinated with their intelligence. People's like, we got drones. We should have already known if they're real. Y'all, people, the government, and you were yourself. Tell everybody once again what your job was.
Police officer.
Yes,
Federal law enforcement officer.
Federal law enforcement. There you go. My point is, the government was trying to hide this from us because they didn't want to scare the public. So when one of these things were spotted, I'm sure they have ways of finding out immediately as soon as somebody calls about one or something like that, and they get right over there and take care of this. Well, on YouTube, it's been a few months back, there was a man videoing his street, and I was just blown away. I was like, there's no way all this commotion is going on because of something like domestic violence. They had helicopters, vehicles without tags, windows. It was crazy, outside of a barn. And he said they've trapped a Bigfoot in the barn, and they won't let anybody else down this street. You wouldn't believe the vehicles and the helicopters and all that stuff on this video. And I said, there's just no way. Eventually, the public was going to find out anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So I wish they'd go ahead and just make a public announcement.
I feel very certain they know about it. I feel very certain.
Yeah.
I do too.
That's one of them things, if they ever come right out and 100% acknowledged everything, let the public know about it, it would hurt a lot of industry.
Yeah.
It really would if you think about it.
So are you talking specifically about logging, or are you speaking about other industries?
Well, there's other industries that would go along with it also.
Like what? Can you give me an example?
To me, logging is one of the biggest ones.
Yeah.
Take all your national parks, for instance.
Right.
If everyone actually knew what was in all these national parks and everything, a lot of people wouldn't go back. Mm-hmm. And that would start running into that's over $1 billion a year industry, just the national parks and fees and so.
Thank you for telling me that. I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's quite a bit of money.
Yeah, it is.
That could be potentially got cut into.
I think people would probably even try to go hunt them,
That also, and it would cause them more headache than anything. Look at that one owl they found up north that they thought was extinct. Come to find out it wasn't. That one bird shut down a lot of business.
Lord of mercy, y'all. That's crazy when I think about that. To think that they went through all that. Anyways, so tell me, you said you've caught some on pictures and video. You got video or just pictures?
I've got pictures and audio. Actually, the best audio I think I have was taken. We were in our front yard, and like I said, we were in the backwoods. We just finally got good internet. I'm telling you, I'm so excited about that.
That's what I'm working with, is trying to get internet at the lake.
Yes, we finally got fiber optic, and that's why it's doing so good this evening. But I was down there. We were actually down there by our fire pit, and it was, I remember distinctly, it was 6:50 in the evening, and like I say, we lived down a dirt road, dead end dirt road, and right across the dirt road, it started. The first whoop, and then right after that, the coyotes. It just gives you chills. I got the audio, and it still gives me chills, and it kept on and kept on, and Scott gets up, and I said, where are you going? He said, I'm going to get a gun. And I said, well, I'm sitting right here. I want to hear what's going to happen. And it went on like that all night. Yeah.
He whooped that first time. Coyotes went to sounding off in there with him, and then he howled up in the middle of all these coyotes. One of the biggest, longest, prettiest howls you want to hear. And that wasn't good enough. They done it 2 or 3 more times. Mm-hmm. And now all this is happening between 50 and 75 yards away from us while we're sitting at a fire pit in our front yard.
But like I say, when he had to be in Florida for a couple of weeks, and I would be here by myself. It used to, I used to be scared and everything you'd hear or whatever. But I finally, he hadn't got me yet. He was going to get me. He dragged me off the woods anytime. So I
Would
just
be
go,
gone by now.
yeah, they just come, keep the door and come on in, And I heard something at 4 o'clock that morning. Sure as the world was a big old footprint right outside the bedroom window. We've casted them outside the bathroom window.
Listen, I was just to say, if that's something that interests me because I can't imagine looking up at my bedroom or living room window, watching TV or something, looking up and seeing one of these things looking at me. They were so far away. That's where I'm not a good shot, especially when I'm in shock. So I was trying to get a picture when I pulled the camera up to get a picture of that little gray one stepped there. And that little gray one still blows me away. I don't know. It looks so tiny and little and bones showing and cheekbones showing and pale, like a gray pale. And it had, I know what you're thinking when I say this. I say that every time. I'm so embarrassed to say it. But it had made it a little head dressing with deer antlers, a little gray one. And I thought, Lord, it's bad enough I've seen something big as a black mountain standing beside this little thing. But now I'm seeing deer antlers on the smart lady. Well, it was only because, bless her precious heart, Joyce from Joyce from Alabama. I think it's Joyce BF or something like that from Alabama. She did a show and I watched it. She said that one of them had like a Christmas ornament hanging down from its side of its face, like they were decorating their own selves and trying to make them their own lair. And also, there was a school teacher. I heard that she was hiking on a trail. She was boiling water on one of those little fire things because I've never been camping, so I don't know what it's like. I'd love to go once. But
Well, you're not too far away from over here. You need to come go with us.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll tell you what, after the show, I'll get your information. And don't ask me if you don't mean it because I'll come and go. But anyways, she was boiling some water on a camping trail, and she went and was fixing to open some oatmeal, and two Bigfoots, a male and female, stepped out in front of her. Well, of course, what was she going to do? Just, sit there. So she said a school teacher, she said, I was shaking, I was scared, nervous. And she said, I just took a thing of oatmeal, ripped the oatmeal open, the little pack of oatmeal, and poured it in the water in a bowl and stirred it. And the male, she said, I handed it to the female, and the male Bigfoot grabbed it from the female and downed that hot oatmeal. And she said, I went back to the car to meet the people that were meeting me there to hike. And she said, when I got back, they had made or left me a pair of flip-flops made out of vines and stuff. Like they make their own footwear sometimes. So it made me not feel as crazy telling the story about the deer antler hat or whatever they had made that up. So anyways, have you ever seen anything like that where they've made their something for themselves to wear? Or?
No, I haven't. I don't doubt it a bit, but I personally haven't. You're asking us about like pictures and everything, and me and Sheila was in the area that we frequent a lot, and we were up on the mountain, and we started coming back down the mountain, and we could tell we were being like paralleled out. We'd stop all of a sudden, just out abruptly stop, and he'd step once. Sometimes he'd step twice, and I was just giggling to myself a little bit. I said, "Yeah, you're right over there. We just can't see you."
Yeah.
So we was talking amongst ourselves. I said, "We get to the bottom of this trail." I said, let's cut back under and see if we can cut his trail and, just get a chance. And we did. And as we was easing along, we're both watching. And Sheila said, hey, I look back and she's got her phone up. She's taking pictures. She said, he's right down in there. And I eased back down over there with her. And sure enough, he's down there peeking in and out at us. So I walk off down in there with him. And by the time I get about halfway to him, I can hear him tear loose out of there. And she's got that picture right there of him. It's a super clear picture.
I can't wait to see those, by the way.
You only get to see about half of his head peeking out.
I try to post a lot on TikTok.
Okay.
That's where I posted most of them.
Well, is it listed under Squatch Fishing or y'all?
It's Squatch Fishing.
Squash fishing out.
Okay, I'll go to TikTok and everybody else joining us. By the way, if I haven't said your name, I've seen Marion Elbot. Thank you, you precious thing. Marion sent the first piece of fan mail to Tommy, and that meant a lot to me. So, Marion Elbot, thank you so much for doing that precious thing. Let's see, I've got Freaky Geek a while ago, and Keith. I seen Lanita was in here at one point. Hillary, thank you so much. Mickey G, I wanted to tell you hello. David Blalick and Jeff Yarrington. I'm trying not to forget all the special people that join us. But after the show, y'all go to TikTok, look under Squatch Fishing, and look at some of her pictures. She said she caught some photos. So that's what I'll be doing. Anyway, but if you have any information or advice for anybody, Sheila, I'm going to ask you first, and then, of course, you after her, Scott. Tell me what it would be your advice to people that are going out here hunting these things.
Don't go alone.
Yeah.
That's especially female. I think female and children are more apt to see them first or faster or whatever than men, because they see men as a threat. Because I think that's what happened that day. They waited for me to get separated from them. Or he did, she did. And that's when I saw that one. My gosh, yeah. I would suggest never going alone. Have a plan. That's why I said these people that go out there on the Appalachian Trail hiking by themselves, that just the thought of that just terrifies me. And I know you've read or watched David Pilatus. I butchered his name. The Missing 411.
Oh, yes. I watched him the other day about that 18-year-old.
Yeah.
That played the violin and all that, but I didn't get to watch all of it, so I got to finish that. Thank you for reminding me. My Ginger, she's 2 years old. I'm assuming we're trying to add it up. I think she's 2. That's why she's barks, but I don't know where she gets them big old lungs. But anyways, I wanted to tell you, when you said don't go alone and to use caution, one of the best things I heard was I was watching Woodwalkers. And it was Spencer and Greg House. And they were doing a special with like 5 or 6 men. It was such a good show because you know how women's like, oh, they're going to get on there and talk about 4-wheel drives and big old tars and all that stuff. I didn't think it would be interesting because I thought they're going to talk about man stuff, and that's probably what they say when they watch my show. But anyways, they ended up bringing up some of the best safety points I've ever heard. And I never even thought about these. You would think that I would have thought about this, but they said when you park your vehicle to get out, make sure that you leave in the windshield, like in case something happens to you, your name and a telephone number to reach out, or somebody, a family member's name to contact. Not the addresses. That's not a good safety thing. But Greg House brought up some good points about leaving your windshield. Think about that. Because what if you got down there and broke your leg or fell off a cliff? Right.
Well, I think probably one of the best ones we figured out too is when we're all camping at base camp. If something comes in the camp and it hits us, we have everybody keep their keys handy. Hit the panic button.
Yes, that's right. That's good.
Everybody come running.
Those car alarms going off and everything. Pretty much when a car alarm's going off, anything that's in there, it's going to shy away and get away from there because of all the quick noise and everything.
Right.
But it also gets everyone else up, and we'll all kind of circle the wagon, so to speak, and see what's going on.
That is a good idea. If they don't have their car alarm with them, do you have any other suggestions on safety tips, Scott?
A good
air horn.
Air horn is a real good one. You can, like you see them at the football games and stuff. One of those. That's a good deterrent for a lot of things. Other wild animals also. You can scream an air horn at them, and their ears are a lot more sensitive than ours. And, and I say that, my wife's got some pretty good sensitive ears. But, you hit one of those at them, and it'll make them back off a little bit.
Yeah.
One of my biggest suggestions to anyone, and Sheila mentioned the part about don't be alone. And I know there's a lot of fellers out there and everything. They're just like me. They're going to be out there alone no matter what. And I'm just as guilty of it as anybody. But learn your area that you're going to be in. Learn the animals that you're going to be around, the other animals.
Yeah.
And do your best to become a good woodsman. That'll save you more heartache and everything else I can think of.
And they can play head games with you, y'all. For instance, one minute, well, like I said, I go out there and I sit under the carport and I just sit at the lake. Well, there's a patch of bushes. I said, boy, I live share a fence with a chicken plant, by the way. So you know when they drop chicken, they take it in a forklift and dump it at the dumpster and put it at the back of the building out in the parking lot. So they already have the chicken plant but dumpster to eat out of. And then the place I'm living is just ate up with these beautiful deer. And then fish and water. And so, I mean, I was like, it was no surprise that, not saying they'll be everywhere you go. They're not on every street corner. I keep telling
Right.
people that. I'm not saying that there's a Bigfoot at every house in every neighborhood. I'm just saying that you know the areas that they're going to be at. Well, I knew that this was real, what I was looking at and took a picture of, because 2 miles across the way on the other side of the lake is Coosa River. And that's where they were sitting in their Jack's parking lot eating breakfast. They go every morning and eat their breakfast at the Jack's parking lot. And they just sit and looked at the Coosa River. And one of my friend's mother-in-laws, she said, she called a man over to the car and said, what am I looking at? And he said, ma'am, I believe we're looking at a Bigfoot. And there was 2 men up on a boat standing on their boat pointing at it. It was in a cove and it was leaning over and it raised up. And he said, ma'am, I believe we're looking at a Bigfoot. Well, nobody said a word. If it wouldn't have been a friend of mine's mother-in-law, I wouldn't have known about it. And that's 2 miles across the river from where I'm at. So I know what I thought was real. So,
and one other thing I was going to mention, like I go off fly fishing a lot, by myself, or I'll have clients with me. But even if I've got clients with me, I always let Sheila know exactly where I'm going.
yes.
And in the middle of that, if I have signal and I change any of my plans, I let her know there where I'm going. If I don't come home, at least she's got a starting reference of where to send someone looking.
Yes. Yes. Let somebody know where you are at all times. Hey, Jeff Yarrington, Mickey G. Paula Jones, V. Burton, Verby, Sandra Piper. Thank y'all for coming. Freaky Geek and Keith from 1675. All the names, Brett. Love you. And Brett, you just heard me talk about they're from Ella J. So call your brother and tell him to watch this episode. Anyways, I'm so tickled. That's the part that tickled me the most, that y'all was from the town he's from, after him just trying to beat that in my head. I'm not trying to tell him to believe in Bigfoot. I'm trying to tell him to keep an open mind.
That's right. Open
That's
mind.
it.
Ain't gonna holler wolf if there ain't no wolf there. That's what I'm trying to tell him. What I seen was not a man. Couldn't have been a man. There's no way it could have. Well, y'all, one day when you bored, watch my interview. I did one for World Bigfoot Central. Oh my gosh, I just did one for CWR. It should come out next week. Sasquatch Theory. I've got interviews everywhere. So y'all go watch my story. I'm going to go watch some of your videos, but I would like for y'all to hang on after the show or something and give me your information, because I definitely want to go on my first camping experience.
Oh, you'll have a ball.
Yeah. And I'm 54 and I've never been camping or had a computer. So imagine my excitement.
Oh, we have a ball. I'm telling you, you get to meet, like-minded people. You get to hear other people's stories. And I promise you, we eat good.
It's important that other people. It was very embarrassing to me to have to even come out and tell people what happened, because I just knew people were going to make fun and be disbelievers. So I wrestled with that for a while. I remember saying that on one specific interview. I wrestled with that. Actually, it was the Woodwalkers interview. I wrestled with it because I thought, here I have worked so hard to work right alongside. Sheila, you don't know what I'm talking about. When you are an officer, you work really hard to get their respect, and you show them that just because you're a female, your sex don't mean a thing. You try to keep up with them, be there for them. You want the same respect that a male officer would give a male officer. So we try to work twice as hard to get that respect. Well, I knew when this come out, the sheriff's department, the officers I work with were going to hear this. So I wrestled with that for the longest. But it's just time that people know the truth. And I just thought, I've got nieces and nephews, so embarrassment be darned is what I
That's right.
said.
That's right.
That was my final decision.
And it shows like yours and Spencer and them shows, Woodwalkers and them, that gives people a place to go tell their story and talk about it.
Isn't that nice
And
to relate?
Yes, ma'am. And we have a lot of people that go with us on these outings, and then they're at a point to where they can sit around and they can talk with other folks that, believe in the same things, and they can tell the things they've seen and everything. And it's a very good outlet for people because there's not many places they can go and talk about their experiences
Without ridicule, that's for sure. So it's nice. I remember, and I'll say her name. I called my friends, first of all. I sent them the pictures, and I'm glad I did, because when my phone tore up, I lost every picture I took that day. Whew. And I was like, oh, Lord, thank you. She's got, so sweet Sandra, her and Mike had the pictures on their phones that I sent them. And she always sends me my pictures if something happens and I erase it by accident. So it was nice to have that. But I remember being so confused at what I seen. I called Duke Sullivan, or emailed him, and I said, Duke, my name's Celena. I seen something I don't understand, and I've watched one of your shows. Can you please contact me? Well, he called me on for an interview, and he calls every few weeks to check on me. And he's a character. He's a good guy. And been in this a long time. But then I still needed to talk about it. And I thought, well, I've got a lot of family that just, they just don't believe in this, and so they've never went through it. So I called a friend of mine now. I didn't know her then. And her name is Lanita Bryant. And thank God we met for lunch one day at Red Lobster. And she bought my lunch, and she let me sit there and show all my pictures to her and just pour out my heart. Because I didn't understand what I see, and I didn't understand why I was having to see something that scared me so bad.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in a locked car. Like I said, I had just pulled in the driveway and was sitting there waiting for any movement, to serve those papers, because I had been 3 days prior. And they weren't home at 3 p.m., 12 noon, and 5. So I kept watching their house to see if I could see a lamp come on at 7 a.m. or them getting up to get ready for work to go make their coffee or something. I kept watching the house, and I just so happened to glance up, and this huge thing was in front of the cars in front of me in the carport. And I wanted to cry. I think I was just in shock, and thank God Dr. William Robinson was on here, and he said, you had one of those, I guess you got adrenaline shocks where it's not loss of blood or anything. You just seen something that put your system in a shock. And I thought I was going to break my gear shift. I couldn't get my car in reverse, and I've drove for 30-something years at this point, had that car for 3 years, and yet I can't put it in reverse. So your mind and your body are not working at the same pace when you see something like that.
That's right.
Yep.
So anyway,
Sure.
You wouldn't think about it, or I didn't think about a phone or a gun or anything else.
Yeah,
All I could think about was what I was seeing.
it took me a while, really. It took me a while.
For me, when I saw that one, I was in amazement. I really was. I was just in awe of what I was
shaking or nothing.
No, I wasn't for that and everything, and it didn't rattle me up real bad or anything, but it was just, now that I've seen this thing, it's real.
Oh no, we've been rattled before. Now
we've been rattled before.
Say, has there anything ever rattled you?
Oh yeah. We've had our camper almost shook off the blocks. We've been bluff charged. I mean,
Yeah,
oh my gosh.
Over in and y'all have some of it too, that mountain laurel bushes that grow.
Yeah, I don't know about bushes. I should, but I don't.
We have a lot of mountain laurel up here, and this stuff is tough. I mean, they make walking sticks out of it. It's so tough, and it grows really thick. 4 of us was walking up a Forest Service road one evening, and going up to another area, and all of a sudden, off the right-hand ridge right there above us, something comes barreling off that ridge down towards us, and all of our headlamps throw up right towards it at the same time. We couldn't see what was coming, but we could see that mountain laurel parting as it was coming down through there.
Oh,
I've done like, when you're about to have a wreck or whatever, you just kind of bear down. I was like a rabbit. I done bear down. I was just waiting to be hit.
that protective stance.
We all knew we were
I
going to
was
slap
waiting,
over
yeah.
at that point in time. But he got down to about within 10 yards of us and just stopped. I mean,
Isn't that something so heavy, something so powerful can just stop that quick?
Yeah.
well, so that's what, that was what was funny. We didn't know if it jumped over us in the night or if it caught a trail and went up another trail or what. But it just, 10 yards, it stopped.
Mm-hmm.
I think sometimes it wants to just show us a little bit of its power, let alone when you make one mad. And I guess Daryl, he said how the reason they tore the head off the goat and threw it at the head, threw it at his front door is because he said he had went out there. They kept scaring his horses, and he said he just had it. And he said, I went out there and hollered, "You better stop this right now. I have had it. No more scaring my horses. No more this and that, And he was giving them what for. Well, he got a headless goat. They tore the head off a goat and threw it at his front door. He said he opened the front door and almost fell on the goat.
Wow.
The goat almost tripped him. So imagine, y'all, that's something that happens on like movies. So imagine how he must have failed. I would have been beside myself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to see a dead goat.
No. Not being thrown at the front door.
I've been gifted stuff, but I don't want a dead goat.
And you don't. There's a new report, by the way, speaking about the goat, that a woman has found her German Shepherd dead on her roof, and all that. I mean, it's crazy. They're just killing dogs and throwing them on top of roofs. Who can pick up a dog and throw it way up on top of your roof? That's crazy. So all these kind of things interest me, but not in a I'm glad it happened kind of way. More in a I'm learning as I go, and we need to know what these things are capable of. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
So it's okay. I want you to promote. We're fixing to end the show, so I want you to promote your channel and tell us about that before we end the show.
I do.
Well, me and Sheila, but we have Squatch Fishing Outfitters here in LJ, Georgia. We actually take people out on expeditions, on Bigfooting expeditions, weekend expeditions. And we also guide fly fishing on these small mountain streams. On our fly fishing, we go from the point of teaching people that have never put a fly rod in their hand, teaching them how to cast it, how to utilize the water on the streams and everything. And within about 30 minutes of working with them, we take them to put them on fish, catching fish. And I'm a disabled veteran myself, and I'm a member of a group called Project Healing Waters for disabled vets. And it's fly fishing group.
Oh, I can see where that would help somebody totally get bad things off their mind if you stayed out there and did that.
And it really does, and it helps out. It helps a lot of guys. And I've been a member of that for quite a while, and I'm probably one of the cheapest guides up in this area. And a lot of people ask me, say, how can you do this, what you're doing for the price you're charging? And I explain to them, I'm retired. I don't do this to make my living. And this is just kind of a little way of giving a little bit back because someone else taught me how to do this.
That's awesome of you, Scott. Thank y'all so much for that. That's so awesome. Think about that to take. And hey, Winkling Ken, thank you for joining us. Good to see you, buddy. I heard a story from PJ, Arkansas about Winkling Ken the other day, and it just made me appreciate him more. I'm telling you right now, I'm learning more and more about people. But I absolutely love that you said that you don't have to financially do it, that you find that it helps you and them, and I just love that. So thank you so much.
Yeah, our main goal is to break even.
Yeah.
If we can do that, we're tickled to death.
And we get to do what we enjoy doing.
We get to do what we enjoy.
Well, you're going to have to enjoy showing me how to count from A to Z. I don't even know how to count. So you need to tell me what to bring. But after the show, I want you to make sure and send me your information so I can get in touch with you. And immediately, we're going to see if we can't start staying in contact you two. You will be the first person that ever shows me how to count.
Awesome. Sounds like
And that's a big deal for me because after seeing something like this, and like I said, in a locked car, it still has me sitting on my carport. And when it gets so dark, I don't want to walk, but so far out, like, because I know what's in there now. You know,
Right.
before I'd have walked out, Lord of mercy, worked third shift for so many years, walked outside, went shopping at night, went anywhere, but never thought about the woods at night.
It changes everything.
It does. It changes everything about you and the way you look and see things. Okay, I'm gonna let y'all go. Y'all have been absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much. And
You're
again,
welcome.
you got my wait a minute. You got my text, my information to text me your information so I can get
You're-
to you about
Yeah,
camping.
you're on Messenger. We're on Messenger
Okay.
together.
Okay, message me and give me your information to contact y'all about camping.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Okay. Thank you so much for coming. I love Verax. Hey, buddy. Thank you so much for jumping in here. Go back and watch this. This is a really cool show. They were awesome, Sheila and Scott Granger. And thank y'all so much for joining Southern Belle Bigfoot. One more thing. Y'all were awesome. I could not believe. Hey, Sassy, my Debbie, how you doing, girl? Just seeing your names pop up. But go back and watch this episode. Subscribe to this channel because they've seen some awesome things. And I love that. I guess you could say fellow officers. And so that made me feel even more close to this couple. Okay, y'all. One more thing. My subscribers, surpassed 1,000 quick. I mean, I couldn't believe it. I took forever to get me that 1,000. It took 9 months, but once it did, it shot it way up there. And I want to tell you, thank you for subscribing. And I want to tell you also, my views are huge. I can't believe how my views are. Every day they go up 1,000 or something. It's crazy. But anyways, y'all have been so supportive. Love you guys. Okay, so go check out Sasquatch Fishing, and I love that they live in LJ. That tickles my heart. I gotta go kid my nephew, by the way. I love y'all. We're gonna end the show now. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Coming.
Howdy, folks. Tex here. Welcome to Southern Belle Bigfoot. Let me introduce y'all to a great friend of mine, Celena.
Hey y'all, I'm Celena. I started this channel because I had my own encounter, and I know what it's like to be ridiculed and unable to share my experiences. I want to give everyone a safe haven to share their encounters with these magnificent beings. I love to hear yours as well. Please email them to me at cwlenagarrett@gmail.com. And if you'd like to support me in my journey to the truth, my Cash App is $Selena Bigfoot, and I look forward to hearing from you.